Okay, let's unpack this. A Harvard graduate, owner of a thriving carpet factory, claimed he gleaned more about truly influencing people in a mere 14 weeks than he did during 4 years of Ivy League education.
Wow.
Sounds almost unbelievable, right?
Mm.
But that surprising admission perfectly sets the stage for the principles we're about to explore, these sort of enduring ideas on winning friends and influencing people.
That's a powerful opening. It really makes you think about where, true understanding of human interaction actually comes from.
Right.
What's fascinating here is that contrast, isn't it, between formal academic learning and the practical real-world wisdom this guy uncovered.
Absolutely. And that's the core of this deep dive, which is tailor-made for you, our listener, because you flagged this foundational work for us. We're diving into Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Carnegie.
Now, this isn't some flash-in-the-pan self-help book. It's a text with serious staying power. Carnegie spent years poring over the lives of remarkable leaders and successful individuals throughout history.
Right, like who are we talking about?
Well, figures like Julius Caesar, Theodore Roosevelt, Marconi, big names. He was trying to distill these fundamental principles of human connection.
And if we put this in context, it's worth remembering when this book first landed, the 1930s.
Yeah, a very different time.
The social landscape was quite different then. Some of the examples, maybe even the language, might feel a touch old-fashioned now.
They definitely can. But it's also worth noting that Carnegie himself was a lifelong learner. He kept refining his teachings, especially in his work on public speaking.
That's a good point.
And our sources suggest that if he were still around today, he'd likely be updating How to Win Friends to reflect, our evolving world. So while we might kind of chuckle at a phrase here and there, the underlying wisdom, it still feels incredibly potent.
Precisely. And his starting point was so interesting. He began teaching public speaking, right? Helping people get their ideas across.
Yeah.
But his curiosity naturally led him deeper into exploring how truly effective leaders built rapport and, swayed others.
Yeah, it wasn't just about polishing a speech.
No, exactly. It was about understanding the very fabric of human relationships, how people actually connect.
And that's our mission today, crafted specifically for you. We want to pull out the most vital, the most timeless principles from Carnegie's work.
In a way that's efficient, right? But still thorough.
Exactly, sparking those aha moments without, burying you under an avalanche of information. Ready to get started?
Absolutely. Let's dive in. Where should we begin with these foundational ideas?
Okay, let's start with a principle that sounds deceptively simple, but can be incredibly challenging in practice. The profound importance of not criticizing.
Yes. Rule number 1, basically.
Carnegie lays this out as a cornerstone for building positive relationships. And he illustrates it with some really compelling stories, starting with Abraham Lincoln's own evolution.
Lincoln's journey on this is really significant. Early in his career, he wasn't shy about public criticism, even using newspaper articles.
Right, he could be quite cutting.
Yeah, and that well-known incident with James Shields, the satirical letter that almost led to a duel, that seems to be a real turning point.
It was pivotal, wasn't it? This near-fatal fight over some public ridicule, it seems to have hit him hard.
Definitely.
Our sources really emphasize it as a deeply significant personal event for Lincoln. It taught him just how destructive criticism could be.
Yeah, the potential fallout.
And from that point on, he made a conscious effort to almost never criticize anyone. Think about that, a complete 180.
And this wasn't just, a personal resolution. It became a guiding principle during his presidency, even with the immense pressures of the Civil War.
Incredible pressure.
Think about the generals leading the Army of the Potomac: McClellan, Pope, Burnside, Hooker, Meade. A lot of them made serious mistakes.
Caused Lincoln huge frustration, you can imagine.
Immense frustration. Yet he learned to manage that without resorting to public blaming or condemnation. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, how things might have turned out if he hadn't learned that lesson early on.
The story about General Meade after Gettysburg is particularly telling, I think.
Oh, yeah. The unmailed letter.
Exactly. Lincoln was deeply disappointed that Meade didn't chase down Lee's retreating army when they seemed, vulnerable. He even wrote this really strong letter.
Called it a prodigious blunder, I think.
That's the one. Harsh words.
But what's so insightful is that Lincoln ultimately chose not to send it.
Why? Why hold back?
Well, he realized that tearing into Meade, even if he felt justified, would likely just lead to defensiveness. Meade would try to justify himself.
Or maybe even resign.
Potentially, right
Yeah.
in the middle of everything. Lincoln understood that kind of criticism wouldn't actually help win the war.
It wouldn't serve the bigger goal.
Exactly. As the source points out, he'd learned the hard way about the futility, the negative consequences of sharp criticism. It kind of raises an interesting point about expressing disappointment versus outright criticism, doesn't it?
It's a powerful lesson in restraint and strategic communication, really.
Mm.
It just reinforces that idea that criticism often backfires,
Yeah.
creates more problems.
It's like that saying Carnegie uses criticism as like a homing pigeon.
It always comes home to roost,
Yeah.
causes damage.
Yeah.
And there's also that more personal story, the father who kept criticizing his son for small things before school.
Oh, that one really hits home, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The emotional impact of constant fault-finding, especially in a family.
Yeah.
The father, looking back later, watching his son sleep, he was just filled with regret. He realized his nagging was basically how he said good morning every day.
Terrible realization.
And he saw he was judging his kid by his own adult standards completely unfairly. What stands out is his eventual self-awareness and, the pain of that realization.
It's a stark reminder of how easily we can fall into that pattern of nitpicking
Mhm.
and how damaging it can be in our closest relationships, family, friends, work colleagues.
Everywhere, really.
The core takeaway from this principle is just crystal clear. Criticism rarely, if ever, changes minds for the better. It almost always just breeds defensiveness and resentment.
Which leads us quite naturally into Carnegie's second key principle, the remarkable power of appreciation.
Right. If pointing out flaws doesn't work, what does work to motivate people and connect with them?
That's where appreciation comes in, big time. Carnegie really emphasizes this fundamental human yearning we all have to feel valued, to feel important.
He brings in Freud, talking about the desire to be great.
And John Dewey, the craving to be important.
Yeah.
This isn't just some surface level thing, it's deep. It's a profound human need.
And what's fascinating is how Carnegie frames it, this desire for importance, as a key difference between humans and animals.
Right. He talks about growing up on a farm. Animals respond to compulsion, force maybe.
But humans, we're motivated by something deeper, that feeling of being valued.
Mhm.
It makes you think about the different kind of levers that drive behavior.
He even uses some pretty extreme examples to make the point, doesn't he? Like Dillinger, the bank robber.
And Rockefeller, the tycoon,
Yeah.
worlds apart.
But both, in their own way, driven by that need for significance, though expressed very, very differently. And destructively in Dillinger's case.
He also touches on the idea that a really profound lack of feeling important can even contribute to serious psychological issues.
Yeah, that's a heavy point. But on the more positive side, Carnegie gives these great real-world examples of how appreciation, when it's genuine, leads to amazing results.
Like Charles Schwab, the steel guy.
Exactly. Famously earning a massive salary, and he chalked a lot of it up to his ability to deal with people. Appreciation was his secret weapon, basically.
It truly is. Schwab himself said, look, many of my guys know more about making steel than I do.
Uh-huh.
But it was his skill with people, specifically giving sincere appreciation, that made him so successful.
And then there's Florin Ziegfeld, the Broadway legend.
The Ziegfeld Follies.
Right. He became famous by glorifying the American girl, making his performers feel beautiful, valued. He showed genuine consideration, even boosted their salary significantly.
These examples really show the tangible benefits, don't they? It's way more than just being polite.
Oh, yeah. It directly impacts performance, loyalty, self-esteem. I mean, that quote from the actor is so poignant. There is nothing I need so much as nourishment for my self-esteem.
Wow. Hits you right there.
And Paul Harvey's story about the transformative effect of sincere appreciation just adds another layer to it. It seems this need cuts across all professions, all levels of status.
But Carnegie is really careful here to draw a line between sincere appreciation and just flattery.
Big difference. He calls flattery shallow, selfish, insincere, cheap praise.
And people can usually spot it a mile off, right? Especially smart people. Makes it ineffective.
Whereas true appreciation is genuine, it's heartfelt, it's specific about positive qualities or actions.
So the practical advice for you listening is pretty clear. Get in the habit of giving honest, sincere appreciation.
Like Carnegie says, be hearty in your approbation and lavish in your praise.
Yeah, actively look for the good in people. Acknowledge their efforts. Celebrate their wins with genuine enthusiasm. Make it specific. Make it meaningful.
Absolutely.
All right, let's shift gears to our third crucial principle. This builds on understanding human motivation. the art of arousing in the other person an eager want.
Ah, this is key. It goes beyond just appreciating them. It's about tapping into their specific desires.
This principle, which Carnegie credits to Harriet Overstreet's advice,
Of first, arouse in the other person an eager want.
yeah, it highlights that the best way to influence someone is to figure out what they want and then show them how you can help them get it.
It means stepping outside your own viewpoint, doesn't it? Really trying to see things from their side.
The classic story of Emerson and his son trying to get that stubborn calf into the barn is such a perfect illustration.
Oh, yeah. Push, pull, shove. Nothing works.
Because they were focused on what they wanted the calf inside. All they got was resistance.
Until they switched focus. What does the calf want?
To be with its mother.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Lure it with that, and suddenly it goes in easily, effortlessly.
That simple analogy is actually incredibly profound. You can apply it everywhere.
The source gives other great examples, like instead of just lecturing kids about smoking,
Which never works.
right, frame it in terms of how it'll mess up their sports performance. That connects directly to their desire for athletic success. It's about linking your message to their goals.
Or the story of Stan Novak's little boy who didn't want to go to kindergarten.
Yeah, instead of forcing him.
Stan cleverly focused on the fun stuff. The activities, making new friends. He basically made kindergarten sound like something the kid would want.
He aroused the want, even in negotiations, like the rent increase example. Focusing on the landlord's pros and cons, not just, I want to pay less, is way more persuasive.
It's fundamentally about shifting your perspective
Yeah.
from my needs to their needs.
The contrast between those two letters in the source is so stark. The advertising agency letter,
All about them. We want your business.
completely ineffective.
Oh.
Then the freight company letter.
Clearly outlining the benefits for the customer, how it saves them time and hassle.
One is self-focused, the other is customer-focused. Huge difference.
And Barbara Anderson's job application letter to the banks in Phoenix, another perfect case study.
Instead of just saying, I need a job,
She detailed her 10 years of banking experience and spelled out exactly how that experience could directly help them, these expanding banks. All focus on their needs, their wants.
the crucial takeaway here really is empathy. Genuinely trying to understand the other person's viewpoint.
Identifying and appealing to their wants, their needs, that's the foundation of effective influence.
It really poses a question for you, listening. In your own interactions, how often do you pause and really think about the other person's perspective first?
Okay, let's dig into our final key principle for this deep dive. The power of becoming genuinely interested in other people. This sounds simple, maybe.
Almost obvious.
Yeah, but the depth and the sincerity of that interest, that's what makes the real difference.
Absolutely. Carnegie kicks the section off with that simple but really resonant analogy. The dog.
Man's best friend for a reason.
Right. A dog wins friends easily through just pure unconditional love and enthusiasm, no hidden agenda. It's a potent reminder of the impact of just being genuinely interested in others.
And this isn't just for personal life. The source connects being genuinely interested in people to success in all sorts of fields, even something like writing fiction.
Makes sense. If you want to write compelling stories about people, you first need to be, well, interested in people, how they tick, what they care about.
The story of Howard Thurston, the famous magician, is really insightful here.
Yeah, he was a master illusionist, no doubt.
But his lasting success wasn't just the tricks. He consciously cultivated a genuine interest in his audience. He'd greet them warmly, often by name.
Creating a personal connection.
Exactly. It made the whole experience much more engaging for everyone watching.
Theodore Roosevelt is another amazing example of this in action.
TR.
It's noted how, even after he left the presidency, if he visited the White House, he'd greet everyone by name, from top advisors right down to the kitchen staff.
Showing that consistent, sincere interest in people, regardless of their job title.
These seemingly small things, they have a huge impact on how people feel and how they respond to you.
That sales story, Edward Sykes Jr. and the soda clerk.
Oh, yeah, that's a great one. It shows how taking a genuine interest, even in someone who isn't the main decision maker, can build surprising loyalty and lead to good things down the line.
Everyone appreciates being seen, being valued.
Definitely. And it's not just about being generally friendly. Cultivating genuine interest can actually open doors to people who are normally very busy, hard to reach.
Carnegie talks about how he got famous authors and big shots to speak to his students.
How did he manage that?
By expressing sincere admiration for their work, genuinely, and making it super easy for them. He'd give them specific questions he knew they'd actually want to talk about.
Ah, playing to their interests again. Smart. And a huge part of showing genuine interest is remembering people's names.
Oh, this is a big one for Carnegie. He spends a lot of time on it,
He gives practical tips, right? Repeating the name when you're introduced.
making an effort to write it down, maybe using a birthday book as a memory trick.
And that story about Mr. Levy and the immigrant, wow. The guy was just so moved because someone finally bothered to learn and use his correct name.
It really highlights the emotional power of that simple act of respect, of interest.
It's noted that even Andrew Carnegie, the industrialist,
Not Dale, the author.
right, Andrew Carnegie, he attributed a chunk of his incredible success to handling people well, and remembering names was a key part of that.
And other historical figures too, like FDR.
Franklin Roosevelt, yeah, and Napoleon. They recognized the power of names and had their own systems for remembering them.
So the actionable advice for you here is pretty straightforward.
Hmm.
Actively work on cultivating a genuine interest in the people you meet.
Ask thoughtful questions. Really listen to the answers. Make that conscious effort to remember names. Show people you genuinely value their thoughts, their feelings, their experiences.
According to Carnegie, this is fundamental. It's key to earning their attention, their time, and ultimately their cooperation.
Yeah.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, let's just quickly recap those core principles we've pulled from Dale Carnegie's work.
Good, yeah.
First, the huge importance of really trying to avoid criticism.
Hold back on the fault finding.
Second, the immense, often overlooked power of giving sincere appreciation.
Genuine praise. Specific praise.
Third, the effectiveness of arousing in the other person, an
Yeah.
eager want thinking from their perspective.
Figure out what they desire.
And finally, the profound impact of cultivating a truly genuine interest in other people, their lives, their thoughts, their names.
And by actually trying to integrate these principles into your daily life, your interactions, well, you, our listener, will likely find you develop maybe a deeper, more nuanced understanding of people.
You probably have more of those aha moments too, right, as you connect better.
Exactly. And hopefully navigate those complex social dynamics with a bit more ease, more effectiveness.
Okay, now for a final thought for you to chew on. Think about just one conversation, one interaction you had earlier today.
Just one.
How might intentionally applying even one of these principles, maybe offering a specific, sincere compliment, or just showing a bit more genuine curiosity about what the other person was saying, how might that have subtly shifted things?
Change the dynamic.
Mm.
Or even the outcome.
It's interesting to think about, the ability to understand and connect with others. It often gets labeled as soft skills.
Yeah, kind of dismissed sometimes.
But after diving into this, we encourage you to consider, maybe, just maybe, in the grand scheme of things, aren't these the most fundamental, the most impactful skills of all?